Hey, and now it is 3:15, so we are officially starting. Welcome, Robert Lopez.
Hey, how you doing?
Let's see if we've got a nice little crew with us here. Let's see. It looks like we got some people who have joined us. Yes, other people would love to take a class with you as well. So, yeah, get back into it, Robert.
Yeah, I got it. I got to get back into it.
All right. So what do we learn from you?
I'm gonna do a quick little demo on how I do a cold connection with metal clay. So I'll give you a background on me and how I got into metal clay, and kind of tell you why I do what I do with metal clay. I don't really use metal clay. I don't really make metal clay. Is what I should get at. I used to have I used to share a booth many years ago with someone named Laura Moore, and she's a metal clay artist. Her business name was Billy's a Bad Kitty. Well, we ended up sharing a booth together because we had very little stock, both of us. We met at a show. I said, hey, let's just share a booth and split the cost. And back then, believe it or not, I was really against metal clay. I'm a silversmith, right? I'm a fabricator. When I first saw metal clay come out, it's funny. I'm going to say, I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it. I used to go, shh. I used to hiss at it, right? Because to me, metal clay was just too light-handed for me. The process was very light. I describe what I do as very heavy-handed. Torches, anvils, diamonds, big hammers. I'm a brute when it comes to metalsmithing, and metal clay seemed very light-handed for me. So I used to do that. I said, okay. Well, I met Laura Moore, and she had the most beautiful little medallions. And I'll put a couple of hers here, so I'll put a couple of them on the screen. And we shared a booth, and I started looking at her pieces, and I really liked them, so I started buying them from her. And so this is a flower and a centipede. So I would buy her pieces from her, and I started figuring out how to put them into my work.
So those are lovely.
Yeah, they're beautiful pieces. Those are bronze metal clay with a patina, verdigris patina. So I started incorporating those pieces into my work, and I found that I really love metal clay for the fact that you can take molds of things you find in nature. Insects. I'm really into insects. That whole insect collection. Plants, natural textures, things that I really couldn't recreate or mimic very easily with my fabricating techniques. So I started incorporating those pieces into my work, and there was quickly people started reacting to them. They really resonated with people. So I was mixing my metal smithing, fabricating techniques with the metal clay. But at that point, I'd never actually tried doing metal clay, creating with metal clay. I would just purchase them. Well, I was doing some other shows, and I met some people that were metal clay artists. So on my downtime during the shows, I would dabble. If they had like a little demo class, I would dabble with metal clay. I started playing a little bit here and there. And to this day, I still really don't play with it too much until Project X came out. Project X came along, and I bought some. Carrie gave me a little piece of it, and then I bought some. I bought a few packets this last week, and I started playing with it. I started making my own molds. So I'm a cheapskate. So I have this 2-part molding compound, but it's kind of pricey for me. So I went online and I saw how to make silicone molds with just silicone, like regular caulking silicone, but pure silicone. So I made these using silicone and cornstarch, and it works pretty good. The only thing, the downside of it is that it's very sticky. If you're not careful, it'll stick to everything. So I went back to using the purple stuff. The purple stuff's pretty much user friendly compared to the raw stuff. But again, I'm a cheapskate, so I'll probably go back to the silicone and cornstarch when I'm at pinch. So I just run to the hardware store and get it. So that's a brief little background on how I got into metal clay. But I have been making. Let's go back to this camera. I'll show you what I made with the metal clay. So move those. So this is the piece that I made. The very first piece I made with Project X. So if you look, I'm going to change my screen real quick. So this is a succulent flower from a succulent that grows in my front yard. I made a mold out of this one with the silicone and cornstarch. And what I did was, so the first one I didn't center it properly because again I'm not a clay artist and I'm just a monkey with a hammer. So I'm just going at it, right? And I don't think I centered it correctly, so it broke. Well, what I did was I just soldered it onto a sheet of silver backplate. So I took the two broken pieces. This piece was actually turned a quarter turn. It was all one piece. And what I did is I just soldered it to the backplate, and then I soldered it onto a ring shape that I made using Argentium sterling silver. Let me change my settings again. Any questions about this one before I go? You still hear me okay?
I'm using my myself, so you don't hear all the background noise. But yeah, that is spectacular.
So,
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I was just saying for people who don't know about Argentium,
Yeah. So I primarily work with Argentium. I've been working with Argentium for pretty much the beginning of my metalsmithing career, 15, 16 years ago. I use Argentium because because primarily for its tarnish resistant properties. That's why I first started using Argentium. I got tired of polishing pieces all the time at these shows. Back in the days, I'd have 50 to 70 pieces and constantly having to polish my silver, traditional sterling silver. Well, I got tired of polishing all the time, so I heard about Argentium silver and its tarnish resistant properties. So I quickly tried that out, loved it, and started using it. And then quickly found that the real reason I really love it is that it fuses together beautifully. So its fusing qualities are amazing. I can take things with very fine detail, roller print like a leaf or a feather. I can stack hundreds of pieces together at once, hundreds of granules, all kinds of little components, and I can fuse those together all in one shot without using any solder. So, and it'll hold its textures. So that for me was the main sticking point. That's why I'd probably cry if they stopped making it, because I don't know what I would do. I don't know how I would do my work if I couldn't fuse. If I didn't have Argentium, I couldn't fuse as easily as I do. I'll show you a picture.
And actually, while you're showing us another example, I have two questions. One question is, what is the Argentium next to the product X? Is it?
Oh. Yeah, it's very, very similar. There was slight color difference, but not much. Argentium sterling silver is supposed to be a whiter silver, so it's got a little bit of a whiter tone to it, but it doesn't really matter for me because I pretty much put a patina on everything. Everything I do usually has a patina, and so the ring that I did has a patina on it, and they patinaed equally at the same rate and at pretty much the same colors. So I'm also known for colors, so when I do patinas, I get magentas, blues, golds, yellows, oranges, purples. I can get all these colors on my Argentium. Now, I haven't tested the Project X to see if I get all those colors, but when I patinaed the ring, it got to a blue stage, and I pulled it out, and they were both blue. The Argentium and the Project X were both blue color. So it patinas beautifully.
And which Project X are you working with is another question.
I used the 999 Flex. That was, I believe, because when I was first talking to Carrie about me using it, she says that one is pretty user-friendly, especially for beginners, and I am definitely a beginner. I don't think I watched maybe a couple of videos. When I did MCAS, I didn't watch any videos. I just kind of I read a couple of articles, and I just went at it and made something. But luckily, I didn't damage it too bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible. It was good enough to I think I won. So I won the flame off contest, and I got that set of Weber's pliers back there is what I won.
Nice.
Yeah, it was cool. I think I won because of my jokes, though. I was pretty funny. I was cracking wise, so I might have won too. Let me show you a quick example of this fused piece before I get too far into my thoughts.
Oh wow!
If you look at this piece, let me raise my camera a little bit. So if you look at this piece, all these components on the silver, they're all fused. There's no solder joints in any of these components here. The back plate is Argentium sterling silver that I roller printed with Gwen Youngblood's rolling mill resources papers. So that's like a cell, like a plant cell pattern, and then Argentium wire, all fused, granulation. The center, I don't know if you can tell, but I heat fracture the Argentium. So all these pieces here have been heat fractured in the center, and then I stack them and refuse them. So all this has been fused. There's no solder. The only solder joint would be the bezel to the back plate, and then the stone setting to this top plate here. That's the only solder joints that I actually have in it.
Your work is incredible.
Thank you so much. And then I'll show you before I get too far and get lost in my thought. Here's the piece that I'm working on that I'm going to finish off for y'all. So this little component, I made a cast of a plant in my backyard. Little flower buds that were coming out on the 2 leaves. And then I put a patina on it. I shaped it, and I have one hole drilled in it. I'm going to rivet set this, cold connection. I have one hole in it so that I could have done some other I was lining some stuff up on this piece. It's gonna get riveted to this piece here. And this is a titanium cuff with Argentium silver, cultured pearls. It's been heat treated. It's been pulse. The spots are done with the pulse arc welder. And then this is jeweler's brass. And then I'm gonna show you how I rivet this on. It's a cold connection. And the reason why I do cold connections primarily is because I use a lot of titanium. In titanium, you can't solder to it. It has to be cold connected with rivets. So I'm going to show you briefly how I rivet it. I'll talk really quickly though about the ring before I get into that because I got to do a little setup. But I'll talk to you about the ring and what I did to it and how I made it actually work. So in the ring, briefly, Tanya Davidson talked about it, so I'm not going to go too much into it. I actually soldered this piece on, and so I didn't do my research, and I didn't know. I knew that it didn't click. I knew that metal clay was porous, but it didn't click to me that it was gonna wick up the solder. So the first time I tried to solder it, the way I normally do, it just sucked that solder right up. I mean, it sucked it up. But I think that has to do in part with I probably didn't center it as well as it should be. So I started doing a little more research. I have like 3 or 4 pieces. I started clinking them and trying to hear that sound. And some of them sound very dull. Some of them sound very high pitch. And I'm guessing the ones that are high pitch, I centered better. And the ones that have the dull, sounds like I'm smacking 2 wafers together. I didn't center them properly. I was using the torch, so I didn't center them properly. So they were very porous. So this first one I did, this first ring, it was very porous and it sucked that solder up like crazy. So then I said, I better do some research. I better watch some videos and stuff. Sure enough, I watched some of Carrie Story's videos and realized that if I burnish the piece first, close up those pores, it's not gonna wick up that solder. So what I did was I burnished it and it soldered beautifully. As soon as I burnished it, it soldered beautifully. So I soldered it to a back plate because I knew there was going to be a ring. So I soldered to a back plate of regular silver and then soldered the whole thing to the Argentium ring shank. So the ring shank, again, I'm not very good at metal clay. I was afraid the ring shank wouldn't be strong enough. So I made it out of Argentium and then stabilized the metal clay piece with a silver sheet. And that's how I did. I also put it in the pin polisher. I used the jewel tool for a lot of the finishing. So I have my jewel tool. I know Ani just did a little thing, but I keep mine here. I can turn mine, articulate it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's nice.
I put mine on articulating arms so I can move it up and in, out of my way whenever I want to use it.
That's pretty smart, Robert.
You're watching, Ani. Do you have any questions before I start? Why don't I do a setup? I'm going to show you how I rivet the piece. I'm going to start setting things up, and then if you can read some of the questions, I'll talk about them as I'm setting up. I'm going to switch the camera so people can look at these pieces too. right. Any questions yet?
Everybody is loving the cup that you think you showed us 2 cups. Everybody's loving it. Gorgeous. The articulating arm is genius. Your dual tool setup, yeah. So everybody's just in love with your setup there.
Awesome. So I'll show you a few rivets and how I do this, and I'm going to be moving. So what's going to happen is I have one camera up front, and then I have one camera to the side and a couple lights. So I'll probably move a few things. I'll probably have to get into the software and do a couple things here and there as I'm looking at the camera, and then show you what I'm doing. So let's move this. There's that angle. Let's move this. Move my light. All right. Okay. So I have my first hole drilled out. What I have here is this is my Stinger riveting system. I know people are going to ask where to buy it. I don't make them currently right now. I was making and selling them. I haven't made them in a while. I don't make any of my tools currently. I don't really have a place to put my workshop, my tool making workshop. So that's why I'm building a new studio / workshop, so I get all my equipment back out there. Everything's kind of in storage. But eventually, I think me and Carrie talked about her possibly carrying my tools. I have maybe 10 or 12 tools that I invent and make. This is my Stinger riveting system. This is what I do all my rivets with. So if you look at this piece here, this piece is riveted on. There's a rivet here. There's a rivet there, 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 and 2 here. They're so small and they're smooth. The reason why I invented this little system, is that so I can do rivets on inside curves and bracelets. I invented it for bracelets so that I can get this in there while it's shaped and do all the riveting. All right. So I have my first hole drilled. Let's see, on this piece, on the metal clay piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a Sharpie. I'm going to line up the piece, see where I want it. It looks about right. I'm going to put the Sharpie through the hole I already have and mark the titanium. Now I have a little dot there. It's hard to see, but there's a little red dot right there. Now I'm going to go with my drill press and drill that out. So I'm going to change camera angles. Here's my drill press. I have a wooden dowel. It's actually a handle from a wheelbarrow. So it's square on one side, I cut it down, and it's round on the other side. I use that to put my cuffs on so that I can put a round cuff and hold it and support it while I'm drilling. So I'll go over to my drill press. Probably won't be able to hear me, so I won't say much from over here.
And someone had a question about the color of the Sharpie. They want to know, does it matter what color? Why did you use pink?
It's what I have handy. It shows up pretty well. I have a set of colored Sharpies. Some of them are so light I bought a huge set of Sharpies, right? These are fine point Sharpies. And there's some of them just too light. The pink shows up really well. Because I have a lot of colors sometimes on my pieces, and that color just shows up. All right, so I've got some rivets here. These are 16 gauge wire. I make my rivets from 16 gauge Argentium sterling silver. They have a tiny little ball head on them. That I make the ball head with my pulse arc welder. It's hard to see, but there is a tiny little ball head on there. It's very, very small. I used to make these with a torch, and I can still make them with a torch, a Smith little torch, with a very tight flame. But I have a pulse arc welder, and the pulse arc welder, I can crank out thousands of these in a day. And I used to have to crank out 1,000 to sell them. So these are 16 gauge Argentium wire. I'm going to line this piece back up. Let's get a better angle. Take my rivet. I'm going to go from the inside. Stick it through the hole. There's the rivet sticking out. And I'm going to stick this through that hole. There it is. You put the ball head. The ball head's on the inside. It's on the inside of this. The ball head is right inside there. And then what I'm going to do is stick the ball head on the head of the stinger riveting system. There's a little concave, little divot right here. Put that there. Take my flush cutters. Cut this off till I only have 2 millimeters sticking out. Funny, when I do that, these pieces of silver go flying all over my studio. That one just bounced off the ceiling. Think. Let me zoom in. Alright, so then I'm going to take a file. I'm going to file the head a little bit. Just going to smooth that out a tad, because when you cut the flush cutters, it actually cuts halfway through and then breaks. So there's like a little sharp line on it. I like to file it off just a couple of strokes. Then I take my riveting tool, and zoom back now. And I take my punch. It too has a little divot on it. I place it on the head, and I give it a couple snaps. You don't want to go too far. If you pop it too many times, what happens is it'll leave a little ring around the rivet. So you don't want to go too many times. So there we go. There's the first one.
There was a question, do you always cut it at 2 millimeters?
Yes, always 2 millimeters. Let me switch this. I'll talk to you about that. Yeah, it has to be 2 millimeters. If you go shorter than 2 millimeters, you go 1 millimeter, you don't get to snap it enough times to mushroom out the head. So what I'm doing initially is I'm hitting that silver. There's a little dimple in this punch, and it's making a mushroom. It's mushrooming out the head in a smooth way. Normal riveting, use riveting hammer, it leaves it all dinged up. Sometimes it leaves sharp edges. I invented this so that when I do the inside of a rivet, it's also smooth and domed out, and I don't have to do any cleanup on it. If a tiny amount on the inside sometimes, but not very much. It makes this perfect little half dome. So if you do 1 millimeter, it's too short. You don't get to snap enough time to make a big enough head. And if you go above 2 millimeters, the head is too high. And what could happen is I can do it a little taller, but I know I've had so much practice with this thing. But what happens is with people that are new to it, if you cut it higher than 2 millimeters, say that there's 3 millimeters, it's a bit tall. What happens is it wants to bend over. So especially if you don't have this punch straight up and down, if you have it at an angle, it'll bend it over. So if you have it 2 millimeters, it's strong enough to keep it upright, and you get enough punches on it so that you can make a dome on it. So that, yeah, so dang, that's fast. Yeah, it's pretty fast. I do pieces that have I've done pieces that have 100 rivets, just decorative rivets. I just do them all over the place, and I can snap these suckers out. I got a rhythm down. So now that I have one rivet, what I'll do is I'll do a second drill. I'm gonna drill it out real quick, and then once I have two rivets in place, if I have 50 more rivets after that, I can drill them all at once. But until I have two, I don't want to rivet them or drill them because I'm never going to close them correctly. Let's see. I'm going to go drill this out real quick. I'll be right back. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, everyone wants you to make the stinger system again.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
We definitely learn our tools, don't we?
Yeah, this one for I mean I use it on all kinds of stuff. So like, let me rivet this one and show you that piece. So like you can do it on like flat surfaces, like these two pieces here. These are titanium. I riveted them flat. You can do it on flat surfaces. It works fine, but I actually invented it for curved surfaces because to get a riveting hammer inside of a curved surface to hit it, you're hitting this thing sometimes, right? The riveting hammer. So you can't get to that rivet head to hit it. So I'm like, there's got to be a better way. So my mind started turning, and I came up with this idea. Now I'm going to go drill the other two holes, and I'm going to rivet those real quick. Right?
Okay.
I'm going to turn the camera.
Yeah. Oh, did you turn off the camera? I don't. No, we can't see. Okay. No. No, you're up. Yeah. That's genius.
And if you look at my setup here, this is a little vise I got from Harbor Freight. I mounted my drill press to a board, and then I mounted another board, stacked it up, and I put my vise on it, and then a cutting board, and the vise so that I can hold this wooden dowel right here.
If I ask a question?
Yeah, I hear you.
When you're fusing Argentium embellishments on, how do you know they're fused? Orange glow, melting surface? Question mark.
Liquid. So let me see. So when I'm fusing, I don't look for color. I look for what happens is the perimeter. So like say granule, or anything that's touching the perimeter edge where they're making contact, you'll see a shine that'll. It looks like solder. So it looks like all of a sudden like there'll just be a bead of solder that goes right along that edge, and it fills in that contact. You see this shine runs across it. So like what's happening is when I'm fusing Argentium, I'm actually pulling a little bit of metal from the surface, and that metal is it's liquid. It pulls into that little, it's like solder. It pulls into that joint and fills that joint. So that's what I'm looking for. There's not a color. Some people they'd have the lights down and doing that. I don't turn lights on and off all the time. So I got to the point where I could tell by how the joints were looking, and it looks just like solder. You'll see it fill in, but instead of solder, it's just silver. Actually it might be germanium, because when you heat up Argentium, the germanium comes to the surface, so it might be a higher amount of germanium that's actually making that joint. But I love it. I can't show you all that because of the way my studio is set up, cameras and all that. But all right, so let's get these last pieces put on.
Robert, look up.
Hey, Carrie. How you doing? What's up? Did you see my tattoo, my neck tattoo I got the other day?
I couldn't hear what you said.
Did you see my neck tattoo I got the other day?
No.
You didn't see my Project X neck tattoo?
Are you serious?
Hold on a second.
Oh my God. Oh.
Project X, Holmes.
I need one of those. Yeah, that's good.
Although I don't think your sticker is actually a sticker. I tried peeling this thing for days and it just peeled the paper.
It's a sticker.
It wouldn't peel for me. It would not peel.
Okay, I'm gonna jump back over where I was, but I wanted to say hi.
Doing fantastic. Again, I'm going to cut this off 2 millimeters. I'll file it. Just to get that little burr off there. Again, when you cut with flush cutters, it'll start cutting halfway through the rivet or the wire, and then all of a sudden it breaks. So you have this little tiny microscopic ridge going across the top of it. If you don't get rid of that, it will make a sharp edge. So cut that off, file it, put the stinger on it. Stinger on it. Make sure it's straight up and down. Give it a pop. Take a look. Make sure it's still standing up straight. Just a few more. One more to go. You all like this angle better, or you want the other zoom in angle?
Let's see what they say. Nobody is answering, so.
Okay. We'll just assume this angle's good. Last one. Just put it in. Last rivet. Ball on the inside. Ball goes on top of the stinger. Push down. Cut it out 2 millimeters. File it. Not currently. All that equipment that I use to make that stuff is all split. So I have a machine that I invented that actually cuts the rivets all the same size, and it just pop, 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 pop. So I can cut 1,000 rivets in an hour or something. I gotta get that out. Once I get my
Back to it. We can't wait to see what all you come up with next.
I gotta get that studio built.
Never done that before, Carrie?
I think I cut that one a little tall. It didn't bend over. Just gotta give it a few more pops. Alright, so there it is. It is done. Let me change camera angles.
So it was a way for people to steal.
Gorgeous.
I gave this one too many pops. See that little ring right there?
Yes.
That was, I think that was the first one or second one. There was something up with that one. I think I cut it too short. I was talking like that, so I had to give it one extra pop. I made a ring. Look on the inside.
You clearly can't sell that now. So if you want to add it later.
You see the heads inside there? They're all like half dome, smooth. And then those little dots are from the pulsar plug. There's spot welds. Titanium that I ran through the rolling mill. Cracked it right there. I put it in my bracelet bender. I wasn't sure how much force it could take, and I actually cracked it. It's okay. My work's always cracked. I actually crack my pieces on purpose.
I know.
Your work is amazing. That whole crack look that's you, Robert.
Yeah, I'm a cracked person. So here's a couple pieces that I have. Let's see. Let me change this a few.
That is amazing.
And they break down.
Really great.
Uh,
That's all fused Argentium, titanium. The color is just liver of sulfur, LOS.
oh my goodness. That's amazing.
So this piece me and Francesca Watson made, that was for an auction. That was for fallen soldiers. What do they call it? I think it's called Fallen Soldiers fundraiser. This one we did, me and Francesca did together also, Francesca Watson. I think she's coming on tomorrow. That was for Christopher Gage Fund. This is all fused Argentium. I'm trying to find some pieces with metal clay in it.
Yes, we do have Francesca will be on tomorrow at 3:15 as well.
So this piece is metal clay. So if you look at the two hearts, that's bronze and copper clay. A friend of mine made those pieces. So Wayne and Judy Mountain, Wayne Robbins and Judy Mountain. So Judy, the hearts, sent them to me, and then we did. Wayne made the glass.
I thought that was the Wayne Robbins. Yes.
So that's a Wayne Robbins glass.
Yes.
I did titanium, all the flowers, black coral.
Oh my God.
This one is a scorpion. That's the Laura Moore, Billy's Bad Kid scorpion. And
Fabulous.
put it on a deer antler.
Oh my God. Look at that.
And there's some hip fracture. Some hip fracture.
I'm drooling over here. I mean, you could talk about
That's what I try to do. This is one of my favorites. This is when I first started metalsmithing. And let's see here. I'll just show you a couple bracelets real quick before I leave. That's a cuff.
And so where can people buy your art?
I usually just post on social media now. So if I make a piece, I just pretty much sell on social media. Let's see what changes.
On Facebook,
Facebook, Instagram, yeah. So when I was really into it before I was teaching, I would sell most of my work at shows or on my website. But then when I started teaching, I couldn't make enough pieces to really do a show, so I would just sell them to my students. And then now that I'm not teaching so much, I just post them whenever I make a piece on Instagram and Facebook, and I usually just sell there. So that way I don't do those shows as much or the website either.
And is it just your name for Robert Lopez, or what's your...
So my website's robertlopezdesigns.com. There's not really much on there. There's a gallery of my work, but there's no tools like that. There's nothing for sale on that right now. My Instagram is Robert Lopez Designs 1, the number 1. And then my Facebook is just Robert Lopez. But mostly everything goes on Instagram. Instagram's more user friendly. I can do reels like that. So remember, Robert Lopez Designs 1. I had to get that. I had to add that one because somebody, it's a person named on my Instagram site. They shut it down. I had to build a whole new one.
People.
Yeah, I ain't sure if it was people. Check this guy out. This is a ball vise. The thing that it's on is the Ergotron articulating arm. They're made for computer monitors. That's what the jewel tool's on. That's what my cameras are on. I have them all in my studio just to hold this. Almost like what this microscope's on. So if you have a microscope, it's got this articulated arm. Same thing. I just have it all in my studio. It's all my tools.
That is just genius.
Nothing. I live with it. I'm an artist, man.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it. The beauty for me as being an artist is I can make mistakes. I can have flaws. I can ding, damage, bust, break things. And as an artist, all I do is I step back and I view it from a different angle, give it a new perspective, look at it from a new perspective. Just like us as human beings, we're all broken, damaged, and dinged up from life. So if my work has those dings, that's why I can never be a fine jeweler, bench jeweler. I want things to be perfect. Everything's got to be perfect, no imperfections. For me, I want my work to show flaws, and I do it on purpose. I shatter pieces and put it back together. I purposely make them rough and raw and organic. And that's kind of what I'm known for, and I sleep well at night because when it comes to my art, that's what it's all about. So there was something else. You want to see my hats?
Yes, somebody wear your hat.
So this one, there's another. So I made another of the ring. So the ring was the succulent flower. I made another one, and this one was actually better. So I put it on the hat right here.
Now, are you making the hat itself?
No, I find vintage hats, vintage felt hats, and then I reblock them. So I reshape them, I clean them, I take out the insides, the lining, I take out the sweatbands sometimes, I do outer bands. I add this metal clay.
Oh my goodness.
So look, that's a Laura Moore bronze metal clay piece. And then I do all the hat bands, I add the feathers, I reshape them, I do the stitching.
Incredible.
Oh, you're killing it.
Killing this, Mom. So I'll show you the first one I ever did with metal clay. It's this one here. It's a praying mantis in bronze clay, silver.
Yes. You make me want to wear hats. All right.
I know. I don't even wear hats, and it makes me want to wear hats. This one's mine.
Oh yeah. That's perfect. Nice.
You good?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Killing it.
All right. Well, I guess
we're wrapping this up. Is there anything that you would like to close with, or you're watching. You weren't really thrilled for it, so you don't have to say anything else. That was just amazing.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to Carrie and Cameron for letting me be a part of this. This is it's very gracious of them, to considering I kind of had a dry spell for this kind of fire under my butt. Got me to light the fires and start using the torch again. I just want to thank everybody for watching, and just keep an eye out for me, because I'm starting to get back on my horse again and start to do the things that my hands were meant to do. It's been a while, but I'm getting there. So.
Well, I can't wait to see what the future holds for you, Robert, because you are an amazing artist.
Thank you, and I'll be around tomorrow too. I'm going to sit in and watch everybody work tomorrow. So.
I'll be in class tomorrow. So.
Okay.
All right.
So,
Thank
you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.